Okay, welcome back to my video series on how I got a 4.0 in college. And if you've been following through the playlist and watching the videos, you now have the key steps and kind of the key outline of schedule, studying, habits, practices, and kind of next steps that you want to take while you're studying, preparing for your exams. And at this point, you're probably wondering, okay, it's the night before an exam. What do I do? So you have two different situations. One, you could be in the group where you've studied really hard, you've followed all the steps, and you have a really good handle on the content that's going to be tested the next day. Or maybe you kind of slacked a little bit, you got busy, you didn't get to things, and you have no idea what's coming, and it's literally the night before, and you're like, okay, how do I cram? And I'm going to handle both of those very differently. So if you're in the group that you feel like you've really prepared, you've put in hours of studying, you might not have like absolute complete confidence in yourself, but you know that you have studied the material well, you have at least a good foundation in it, you've been going through the steps, you've been rereading your notes, which is huge, 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 huge. You've gone through at least most of the supplementary materials, you've seen the lecture videos. Do not cram before a test. Like the night before, do not stay up crazy late. Do not be drinking all the energy drinks, and don't try to put all this brand new information of everything that you could have possibly missed in your head. This is something that you want to go through and you want to reread your notes, but skim. If it's something that you know, if it's something that you just really quickly read over anyways, your brain naturally is going to stick on the things that you don't really have completely understood or locked in. If it's something that's already in your head, you understand it, you know it, your brain's not going to spend time on it because it's boring to you. Like, why would you look at the same thing over and over? So if it's naturally something you just kind of read through, go through it, skim through it. You don't have the time the night before the test to be spending all of your studying time on something that you already know or that you've seen, and you'll probably get right anyways. So things that are kind of sticky is what I like to call them. Like you're reading through and your eyes stick on it and you're like, don't remember that, not sure about that. Like kind of like quizzing yourself a little bit. Like if there's a definition of, what's the term? And if you can't think about it, that's what you kind of spend your time reading through. Looking back through those notes, which are key in reviewing, and just kind of making sure that you can find those sticky spots. You're just kind of smoothing those out a little bit. If there's something like a supplementary reading or material that you think is really important that you haven't gotten to, go through it quickly. This is not your time to be super thorough. This is not your time to stay up until 2, 3, 4 a.m. doing it. This is just kind of your quick and dirty, skim through it, get the main idea, get the main points, and kind of hope it's enough. The majority of your preparation should have been done beforehand. And if you're pretty prepared, then you don't really have anything else new to go over. And if you feel prepared, you probably are. Relax. I mean, spend time doing something good for yourself. Eat a good meal before bed. Go to bed early. Don't take a ton of things that are going to keep you up super late or not let you sleep. It's really, cramming is not a good idea because you really don't learn as much as you think you do. You just stress yourself out, and then you get to the test, and then you're trying to remember and scrambling. Have confidence in yourself and have faith in the process that you actually have been putting this in your brain in a manner that's reliable and that you can really use it the next day on the test. That being said, go to bed early, wake up the day before test. No matter what, you want to make sure that you wake up in time to give your brain some food, and to be able to kind of like move around a little bit, get your blood flowing. So I highly, highly, highly recommend eating breakfast before your test if it's a morning test. I know some people aren't breakfast eaters, but grab something like even like a little Belvita bar, a piece of toast, something, because your brain mostly runs on carbohydrates. Unless you're in ketosis, your brain is running on carbohydrates and glucose. So give it some brain food, give it some energy. I always like to eat a little Hershey's Kiss or two before, just like a little sugar boost, kind of get you going. And then also, this might sound silly, but if I have a morning test, like before I took my MCAT for medical school, or in between breaks on the MCAT, if you have a test that has like breaks in it, I would do jumping jacks. So if you're taking your test online and at home and you're not getting up, getting in your car, driving to the site, walking from the parking garage, walking from wherever, get some physical movement in, get some steps in, do some jumping jacks, do a plank, do whatever you need to do that kind of just get your heart beating a little bit. Like you don't need to go run a marathon, but you don't feel like you just got out of bed. You kind of want your body to be awake, your blood running through your body, your blood running up into your brain. You want to be ready and prepared for your test that morning. If you're in the group that is not as prepared for the test, don't panic. And I know it's easier said than done, but if you panic, all you're going to be thinking about is, oh my gosh, I don't know anything. And instead of actually applying yourself to kind of do the like little bit of productive things that you can do the night before, it's just going to kind of go to waste. You're just going to get yourself worked up and you might freeze for your test. So the very first thing is to be like, all right, you know what? I have this amount of time. I'm going to make the most of it. That's all I can do. And you leave it at that. So for the night before the test, if you haven't read through your notes, you're reading through your notes. Absolutely. If you haven't watched lectures and everything, like, it kind of gets to the point to where sometimes you just kind of need to like hedge things on what you absolutely don't know. So I would recommend, say that you just don't know anything, like you have not studied the unit at all. Focus on one area and get that down at least where you understand it and could get some questions right on it, instead of just trying to like take a quick glance at every single thing and understand none of it. So you just, as you're going through the material that you haven't gotten to yet, make sure you're understanding what you're reading or what you're learning before moving on to the next part, because if you don't understand it and you just reviewed it, then you just wasted your time because you're not going to answer it right on the test. So make sure you're going for quality, but you're still going for speed. So it's kind of like a catch-22. I would recommend, if there's like resources or materials or something, I mean, go through that until like midnight max. You probably won't have time to really review your notes or even take notes if you haven't got to the lectures, like say they're online or something. But yeah, go for main ideas, go for main topics, make sure that you're understanding it before you're moving on. You would rather not get to every single piece of new content, but at least understand some of it, than have seen all of it but understand none of it. Because your questions are going to be application, your questions are going to be knowing the concepts. So understand what you're doing. And still, don't stay up crazy late. If you know absolutely nothing, I mean, yeah, maybe you need a 2 or 3 o'clock night and your sleep might kind of suffer a little bit for it. But pulling an all-nighter is never a good idea. I mean, you're just not going to function the next morning. You're not going to answer the questions right. And you're probably going to crash, and then you're going to be behind for your next class. Because remember, you're juggling multiple classes at the same time, the majority of the time in the university. If you're a full-time student, you're juggling multiple classes. So go for understanding, but very, very rugged understanding. Don't go for details. Don't go for certain things of like super nitty-gritty memorization. You don't have time for that. It's being strategic, and you're going to have to kind of alter this to whatever class you're taking. But before studying, take 5 minutes and have a plan. Be like, okay, these are the details. These are the things I can skim over. It's what are the main concepts that we're going through? What are the main readings that we're going through? What are the main, I don't know, topics they could ask about, or what are the things that you're not sure of? Maybe you've studied half of it and you have a kind of good understanding on it, but not really. I would suggest skimming through those notes first before you move on to the new content, just so that you can at least answer some questions right. Because remember, the goal is to be able to answer the questions right on the test, if you're going for grades, which is what generally people are doing. So yeah, and then same rule for the morning. You want to wake up, you want to get some water, you want to get some food, get moving a little bit, and then right before your test, just know that you've done what you can do and go rock it. Get those grades.